My name is Luke Shaunerstead, and I've just recently finished reading John Grisham's A Time to Kill. This is a legal masterpiece about the trial of Carly Haley, who is an African American who is on trial for killing his daughter Tanya's rapists. And he is defended by Jake Brigancy, who is a local defense attorney in Clanton, Mississippi. This is one of the best books I've ever read. It was not only entertaining to read, but raises some serious questions about the judicial system. So, without further ado, let's get started and dive right in. So, A Time to Kill is often thought of as a legal thriller, full of courtroom drama and suspense, but at its heart, it's actually a story about what happens when the law works as written, but fails to deliver justice. Set in the Deep South, John Grisham uses Clanton, Mississippi as a lens to examine how racial bias and public pressure shape legal outcomes. Through his use of setting, character development, and the influence of societal forces, Grisham argues that racial injustice isn't a rare glitch, but actually built into the system. The novel shows that in a society where inequality is embedded, the law alone is not enough. True justice requires conscience, courage, and the willingness to act and confront the biases that influence those sworn to uphold its fairness. So first, we're going to talk about the setting. So Grisham situates the novel in the fictional town of Clanton, Mississippi, which functions as a small-scale version of the Deep South. By doing this, he shows how racism persists through culture and tradition, rather than explicit legal rules. In Clanton, judges, lawyers, jurors, and law enforcement officers all come from the same tight-knit community. Because they share the same social and cultural assumptions, impartial justice becomes almost impossible. The law is applied not through principle, but through the lens of everyone's personal belief. The town's reaction to Carly Haley's crime demonstrates this bias. Clanton is sharply divided. Some sympathize with Carl Lee, while some sympathize with those who go against him. Some even join the Ku Klux Klan later in the book to riot against Carl Lee possibly getting off. Justice, in this sense, becomes performative. Racism in Clanton is also normalized in every day-to-day life. Jake Brigancy in the book actually overhears people who say that they reminisce about the other days when N-words knew their place. This casual conversation shows that racial hierarchy is socially accepted. Combined with political pressure, which both Sheriff Walls and Judge Bullard, who are minor characters, note that re-election often matters much more than true justice. So Clanton is in Mississippi, and Mississippi is known to have a history of segregation and systemic racism that shapes the novel's legal landscape. The justice system shown in A Time to Kill is not flawed by accident. It reflects generations of inequality. This is most obvious in the handling of Tanya Haley's assault. Tanya's attackers, who are Cobb and Willard, receive a very, very little sentence. They receive around 13 years maximum in the state penitentiary, which is a stark contrast to the amount of time that they would serve if Tanya had been white. Grisham makes this racial disparity even more clear through Carl Lee's conversation with Jake Brigancy. Carl Lee asked Jake if he would do the exact same thing, since Jake is also a father. Jake simply responds by saying, "It's different with me. I could probably get off." This moment exposes how the legal system protects some people while failing others, reinforcing the idea that justice in Clanton, and by extension all of America, is selective rather than universal. Now, the courthouse. The courthouse is the main location and setting in the book, and it's meant to symbolize order and fairness everywhere, yet Grisham reveals it as a space shaped by fear, strategy, and incredible social pressure. Attorneys treat jury selection as a decisive tool rather than a process for discovering the truth. is told that you pick the right jury and you walk. If the DA picks the right jury, you get the gas, which is exactly what Carl Lee is being threatened with. This shows that verdicts are often predetermined by bias. Ordinary citizens are asked to make life and death decisions that they do not know, and with limited understanding of the laws that they are meant to uphold. It is a fragile system, the trusting of lives to 12 average ordinary people, as Reverend Agee says. Although Carl Lee is legally guilty of murder, the novel encourages readers to question whether legality equates to morality. Jake's critique of the death penalty reinforces this tension. Jake argues that the problem with the death penalty is that we don't use it enough. What he means by this is that it isn't given to those who actually deserve it, like Cobb and Willard. However, Jake's closing argument shifts focus from law to conscience, asking jurors to imagine Tanya Haley as white to confront their own biases. Grisham sums it up by saying that the system reflects society. It's as fair as biased, emotional humans can make it. Now, characterization in the book is split into Jake and Carl Lee, some major opposing figures, and really the people of Clanton as a whole. So first, Jake Bergancy and Carl Lee Haley, they embody the tension between legality and morality. Carl Lee, who is driven to extrajudicial action, acts because the system failed to protect his daughter. While illegal, his decision is framed as a response to injustice. Jake, in contrast, represents moral resistance within the law. His fear of an all-white jury should show how racial bias shapes the outcome before the trial even begins. Jake's entire legal strategy, using the insanity defense and reframing the victim's race, forces jurors to confront their assumptions. And Grisham uses this to illustrate that even the law depends on moral engagement when systemic injustice is present. Now, the opposing legal figures are Rufus Buckley, Judge Omar Noose, and Bo Marsharfsky, who show how the system is actually corrupted in of itself by self-interest. Buckley, the first person, sees the trial as a political opportunity by saying, you know how bad he wants to win this trial. If he wins, he thinks it will launch his campaign. His whole motivation in the book is to become the next governor of Mississippi. Judge Noose, he just bends to public opinion and extremist threats to protect his career. The Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacists constantly threaten him, and he makes decisions based on that. While Marsharfsky, he completely manipulates the system through bribery and intimidation. He is known for defending criminals, and he is described as he'll do whatever it takes to win a case. Through these characters, Grisham shows that legal authority often serves those with power, rather than seeking real justice. Finally, we have the people of Clanton, or just the jury. Grisham presents the jury as a reflection of societal bias. Jurors bring personal beliefs, fear, and emotion into the courtroom, making objectivity nearly impossible. The failed attempt to relocate the trial, which is a major plot point, shows how public opinion has already shaped the case. The jury is completely divided. On one side, you got people like Harry Rex, who captures the moral argument, if I was the sheriff, I would not have arrested him. If I was on the trial jury, I would vote him to give him a key to the city. This reflects those who support Carl Lee. And this is just simply stated again by the novel, the jury is all important. It is guilt versus innocence. Justice, in Grisham's view, is emotional, human, and often very subjective. Finally, in A Time to Kill, John Grisham uses setting, characterization, and public pressure to reveal the weaknesses in the American justice system. The novel shows how racial bias, political ambition, and fear can shape legal outcomes and undermine the promise of equal justice. What makes Grisham's story resonate beyond fiction is how closely it mirrors real life. Like the courts in Clanton, the justice system in the real world is influenced by human judgment, public opinion, and historical inequalities. Jury bias, unequal sentencing, and political pressure remain very persistent issues, particularly in cases involving race. Grisham doesn't claim the law is meaningless. Instead, he reminds us that it reflects the society it serves, flawed, human, and extraordinarily complicated. By placing legality alongside morality, A Time to Kill argues that the law alone can't always deliver justice. True fairness often depends on people willing to question the system and act according to their conscience. The novel leaves readers reflecting not only on Carl Lee Haley's trial, but on the fairness of the justice system in our own society, challenging us to consider how morality can guide the law when the system itself falls short. Thank you. Have a good day.